Mashley Comedy presents
Funny Girls Guide,
your weekly podcast on how to live your life shamelessly with a laugh. And we are on to season 2, baby.
Here we are.
Here we are. I'm one of your hosts, Ashley Ella Park, joined with the ever so lovely
and short. I'm like, I put my pillow away and now I'm really short. Mandy Heinzelman Smith.
No, I'm just freakishly tall, so it's just. But you look tall here.
I just wanted my boobs to be seen.
They look wonderful. They need to be seen. They need to be showed off.
Oh my god, thank you.
How are you? How's life?
Oh my god. Well, I'm hungry, and you guys know what happens when I'm hungry is I stop making sense. But I've had coffee, which helps.
That does help a lot.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Ashley just got back from Chicago.
Oh my god,
I'm so happy to see her face.
Oh my god, y'all. Okay, so I have to say, I got back from Chicago. One of my best friends in the world, love you, Parks, got married, went there. I had the most insane thing happen when I was flying home. I've been dying to tell you this story.
I can't wait.
Okay, so it's the wee hours of the morning. Chase and I show up at O'Hare.
You guys are ambitious about those early morning flights.
I like to get back. I like to have my day. I don't want to piddle around. I feel very strongly about this. So we show up at the airport at it must have been 6:30 a.m. And the bottom of our suitcase got fucked up. When we were zipping it up, I just packed too many shoes, I guess. And the siding split open. I was like,
oh, no.
fuck. And so I was like, maybe we can tape it. It was a tiny tear. I was like, maybe we can tape it and it'll be okay. No. So we get there and we have our masks on and everything. And Chase tells this woman who's working at the counter, do you have any tape for my bag? And she walks up to me and she goes, did you just say you have a gun?
What?
Yes. I am freaking the fuck out, y'all. I am like, what? No, I didn't say that.
Did you?
Yes. And I was like, he didn't say that either. And I am freaking the fuck out. I couldn't tell if she was fucking with me. I couldn't tell if she actually heard that, for real. I mean, it was just
But you hadn't said a word?
No, and I was like, you don't go into a fucking airport and say gun or bomb. Those are two things.
Oh my god, Ashley.
And she goes, did you say that? And I was like, no. And I was like, we need tape for our bag. And I was like, bag, B-A-G, not G-U-N. And I was about to shit myself, y'all. I was like, I'm gonna be in a fucking cell
airport jail.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to airport jail. They're gonna waterboard me. They're gonna I was like,
I just
we're
had
going
a
to
vision
prison.
of you being waterboarded, and I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either. I don't like my face getting wet.
I don't like my face getting wet.
I don't like it, And so you've seen me in the water. I like to dog paddle out of there. Yeah. No, so I was flipping the fuck out over her. I was like, no, I didn't say that. And she was like, oh, sorry, I misheard. I was like, and so now I'm traumatized. And I was just like, can we just get some tape, please, for the love of God?
Oh my God. Did she give you the tape?
Yeah. It's
going to take a little more time to get out of your brain, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're like, I need 4 more sleeps until this disappears.
Yeah, it was really traumatic. And then we had to walk by this dog, they have dogs that scare the sniffing out. Chase says, I don't believe this though. Chase says the dog followed me for a bit, where he was kind of following me. And I was like, for what? No, but could you imagine after having the gun incident and then the dog sniffs me out and then I do end up in O'Hare?
I think the dog just knew that you were a dog person.
Maybe it was just maybe just picked up my good vibes. But Chase was straight up oh no, the dog followed you for a little while. I was probably because that lady said I had a fucking gun.
Holy shit.
So that's my story.
Holy fucking shit.
Chicago was lovely though.
It looked like you had a good time, and I loved Ashley put up pictures on her stories. If you follow along on her personal Instagram, that Ashley Park, she had you did prom photos with all your friends. I love that you're taller. It just brings me so much joy.
So I'm 5'11", and all of my close friends for some reason are just tiny people, even my guy friends. And so Parks is little, my friend Will's little, and I've known both of them for a long time, and I just cradled them like they were my baby.
Oh my baby. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Oh my gosh, what are you watching? Are you watching something
I'm
good?
watching something new. Did you see that just flash in my head? I was actually just thinking.
I felt it. I think
Ashley just read my mind. Okay, I'm not good at remembering the names of shows, and I just started watching it last night because someone recommended it to me because of the kiss between Jessica Chastain and yes. Okay, so I started watching.
So did you see that? Did you see that video of them on the red carpet?
I feel like it was a PR stunt for the show.
Absolutely, but I was
it was hot.
It was SeaWorld down here. It was insane. I was like, these are the hottest fucking people, and they're just eye fucking the shit out of each other. I mean, could you imagine if Oscar Isaac, I can't even say it, if Oscar Isaac looked at you like that?
I'd just be like, take.
I would just go take my body for fuck the arm. I would die. I would literally die.
Okay, but what's the show called? Okay, I watched the first.
Scenes from a Marriage. It's a remake. Scenes from a Marriage. It's a remake of an Ingmar Bergman film. Scenes from a Marriage. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, it is actually very dramatic. Did you watch the first episode?
I have not watched it. I've seen the Ingmar. It's heavy. It's fucking heavy.
Yeah,
like it's really heavy.
Yeah, I've only made it like 3/4 of the way through the episode, and I was like, do I want to go back to it? But I think I will. I think I will.
Okay.
It's just like, it's like you have to be prepared that it's a little slow moving.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of how the original is.
Okay.
Those Swedes, you know, they move at their own pace.
Yeah. Like that's about, like the conversations are slow moving. It's like you could see a beat of sweat on someone's face. You know what I mean?
God.
Like not really, but it's just a little slow. So that's all I've watched. Really.
Okay.
I'm still like getting into like better sleep right now, getting into our new schedule, waking up at 6:30 in the morning with the kids. I'm not good at going. I have to go to bed 10:30 and I can't. Like I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? Like I need 8 hours. I did go out a lot this weekend.
Oh my God,
I
yes.
know. I missed you. You would have had so much time. So it was my friend Mila's birthday. She would
Happy
like a
birthday,
code
Mila.
name. She'd like a code name for the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Foxtrot. Foxtrot 27.
Foxtrot.
It was her birthday. We went to camp.
Oh yeah,
it was so fun. They're really good. They were really good. And I went to Stubbs for the first time. I was like, we were expecting it to be like a dirty shit show, and it wasn't.
It was
actually
not.
Clean and cute, except for it did smell like vomit.
That sounds right.
But I had my mask, and we made it. We made it through, and I didn't have a hangover, and it was really nice. And I got to sleep in this weekend and back it up with the kids, and it was
perfect.
Yeah, it was good.
That was good.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful time of year for me that I want to brag about.
Tell me.
The Real Housewives are coming in hot, and we've got the Real Housewives of New York reunion coming up, and I hope Ramona gets dragged, but Bravo giveth
when you say you hope she gets dragged, do you mean by her hair?
Oh, just in every way, because she has been a piece of shit. She has been a horribly racist piece of shit, and I hope Andy Cohen takes her through the mud.
Take her down, Andy, please. And then come on our podcast.
But Bravo giveth and Bravo taketh, and Bravo giveth right now, because the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I thought was going to be the most boring franchise in the world, came in scorching hot, y'all. If y'all have not seen the premiere, holy fuck. Okay, imagine. Some of them are. Okay. And actually it's the most diverse cast, which is crazy. Like there's like one girl who's Muslim. There's like, I think 2 Mormons, one that was Jewish but no longer. It's really diverse, like, which I'm very surprised by, because Bravo's like, white as fuck,
Utah.
And it's Utah. Okay. But okay, imagine. I'm just gonna give away the intro. I'm so sorry, but they start filming. This is how they introed this season, y'all. They're filming. They're like getting on a bus, like they're all hanging out, and then one of them, Jen Shaw, gets like a phone call, and she's like, "What?" And she's like kind of freaking out. She looks back at one of the other girls, goes, "Turn my mic off." They turn her mic off. She leaves, and then literally 2 minutes later, the feds show up. The police show up to arrest her ass because she is in hot water with, I think it's like embezzling and fraud, and like there's all this crazy shit going on. And this is the motherfucking intro to this show.
I just want to tell you I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You know how much the Real Housewives means.
It means a lot.
It means so much to me, and
maybe we can have Brian Moylan back on.
I would love to have Brian on, because also Erica. I don't even want to talk about Erica right now. Erica on Beverly Hills, she's dead to me.
She's dead to Ashley.
She's dead to me.
Well, listen, I feel like that's a good transition for our guest who we're having today, because you don't want to talk about Erica. You should only do like, what do you want? What do you really want? That's the question you got to get back to. Is like, do you want to talk about Erica? You don't have to. This is your life. It's your life.
Y'all, Dr. Sarah Milken is like amazing, gorgeous, hilarious, so sassy, and she's the Flexible Neurotic. Give her a follow, and she gives us like all the life advice, and also her Instagram is on point. It is so beautiful.
She keeps it hot. She keeps it
I
hot.
love it. And also like she fans her vagina.
I had the same thought at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like she could be sitting right here and it would be really fun.
I did that the other day. There was like a floor like vent. It was at the bridal shower I was at, and I was like, I'm gonna, crouch over this.
Clearly.
Like it's swampy.
It was your Marilyn moment.
Yeah.
What was Marilyn Monroe doing? She was airing out her vagina.
Air it out, like you gotta cool down the tuffets at some point in time. You got to.
Yeah.
What an intro.
I know. Welcome, Dr. Sarah. Here we go. Okay, we're here with Dr. Sarah Milken. She is the host of the Flexible Neurotic podcast and also the Flexible Neurotic on Instagram. Welcome, Dr. Sarah.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm sweating in my bedroom. It's 68 degrees, but I still have like the midlife neck sweat. My hair is starting to kink up, but we're good.
You look gorgeous. You're
glowing.
Zoom filter. It's the Zoom filter.
Oh,
No.
I do that too. I do the touch up my appearance. I'm like, make me like Barbara Walters. The softer, the better. Let's go.
Someone told me about a different recording platform that like helps separate voices for my podcast. So I tried it and I was like, I look like fucking Dracula. Like that's not happening. I was like, okay, so better sound or Dracula? Like it's not even a choice. We're doing worse sound and look better.
I mean, I think we all know the route to go.
But I can't imagine you looking like Dracula, first of all. If you guys are watching.
Take the filter off, it's Dracula.
That's not true. If you look at her Instagram right now, she is glowing. In fact, when I found you, I noticed that some of my friends from Los Angeles were following you because I moved from LA to Austin a couple of years ago. And I love your content. I love how you talk about, you're very sherry, which you know that Ashley and I love, about real life and about like what to expect with like your midlife remix. You're like, it's not a midlife crisis, it's a midlife remix. Like, what do you want with your life? What is stopping you? And like, you're just so honest in a beautiful way. You've got your shit together and I like it.
Yeah, maybe it seems like that, but my teenage kids, 15 and 17, and my husband are like, TMI, shut the fuck up, stop talking.
Okay, so what made you start the Flexible Neurotic? Was this like a long journey of like, I'm gonna like share my life?
No, it like really wasn't. It was sort of like a very organic, spontaneous thing. And I think the premise of it is I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in February.
You look 28.
Yeah.
By the way.
I was like,
It's because of Dr. Jason Diamond, the LA plastic surgeon who does all the Botox and fillers. I credit it all to him.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I have a whole podcast just with him. He's like amazing. He does like the Kardashians and this one and that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's keeping my shit together basically.
I mean, they're doing the Lord's work. They are doing the Lord's work.
They are, and I'm open about it. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I
Us too.
I view it like a tune-up where it's like we're just going to go in, we're going to get the oil changed, we're going to get, some stuff done.
I love thinking about it as preventative, though. This is my preventative medicine because my dermatologist was like, wrinkles are just scars. And so you can actually make them better. And I'm like, let's make them better.
Let's make them better.
You can heal your scars.
I think that right now in midlife, it's like that time where you have permission to be yourself without judgment. Like we already fucking did middle school. Like we already went through Judgment City. Like we graduated from middle school already. So in midlife, it's sort of like do what you want to do and tone down the peanut gallery and just do you. And if you can personalize your midlife by just doing you, like I'm the girl in the carpool line at 7:30 a.m. with full makeup on. I'm not going anywhere, but that's me. Yeah. And then there's some women who come to carpool line with no makeup on and sweatpants on, whatever. But it doesn't matter who's doing what. It's just doing you, what you feel comfortable in, and staying in your own lane and not judging everyone else. Like, I'm going to be wearing makeup. You're not. But I don't really give a shit if you're not. So don't give a shit if I'm wearing makeup.
Yeah, no, we feel that hard. Yeah.
Is that like, not everybody does the work around that to get over that. Like you meet like grumpy old people all the time that you like. I feel like I've talked with a friend about this recently where you can choose. There's two ways to go. You can either put your head in the sand and you do it the same way you've been doing it and you don't think about like who you actually are, who you want to become, how you can be less judgmental because you're not judging yourself, or you take the sometimes harder way and you do the work. Do you end up there in non-judgment city, wear the makeup, don't wear the makeup, either way, or like you have to do the work to get there? Was that confusing?
No, I mean, you could definitely fake it to make it and just zip your lip and never say a word. But I think your face sort of tells it all.
Yeah.
You have to keep the judgment off your face too, which I'm not really good at. I'm like the biggest eyeball roller known to man. Like I can't hide my emotions. But I do think that part of this midlife journey, which I'm going to go back to and answer your original question before we went down like the plastic surgery route.
We love
which is such a plentiful rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's a highway I want to live on.
And it's about doing whatever the fuck makes you feel good. Yeah. You know?
Oh my God. And I see how people get carried away because like you get one like little like filler session and you're like, I want more.
Oh, it's never ending. And I was like, but I only go once a year. And now I'm like, okay, I'm at the 8-month mark. Is that almost a year? Is that going to work?
Yeah.
Does he talk to you about boosters?
Oh,
No.
totally. Like I've already fucking scheduled like in my mind, like a facelift for 3 years from now. Like it's already like in the works. And my husband's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just have to know that like it's coming, it's there. I have a solution to the crepey neck and the drooping chin, all of it. And I'm good with that. But I know that some people like aren't into that, and that's okay too.
That's okay too. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, going back to the midlife thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a PhD. I chose to be a stay-at-home mom for 16 years. I loved every second of it, well, most of it. Don't get me wrong, it was amazing, but I got bored at times. You know, I grew up in a house where my mom also has a PhD in special education, and she runs the largest nonprofit in the country for special needs kids. Wow. So I grew up in a house with like 2 full-time working parents, and that's all I knew. My mom didn't drive carpool. My mom didn't work for the PTA. She didn't bake brownies, but she was home every night for dinner and schlepped us to AYSO every Saturday. You know, so it's like she was a great mom. But my model was a mom that was working. And so I felt like that was me too. You know, I went to public school for elementary, middle school. Then I went to a competitive high school, private school. Then I went to an Ivy League college. And then I got my PhD and master's at USC in educational psychology. And I was like on this performance route of like, checking my boxes, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And I got married, and I had a kid. I met my husband in 9th grade. That's a whole other story.
In Los Angeles? Were you born and raised in LA?
Yeah, my husband and I were born and raised in LA. We met in 9th grade. We dated for like a month, and then I broke up with him for a senior. We shouldn't even like, he's going to listen to this, so I probably like shouldn't even talk about it. But, and he tells the story like super differently.
I love that too. We're like, oh, that's your account. Okay.
Like, meanwhile, we've been together for like 10,000 years, but that's beside the point.
I know. I think it is important to note because I have questions surrounding that too. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So we went to college in Pennsylvania. We graduated. We moved to London.
Did you go to UPenn?
Yes, we both went to UPenn.
I went to Temple.
Oh, you did? That's where my dad went to dental school. That's so funny.
Oh my God, it's no
Temple.
Did you eat at the Steven Starr restaurants? Did you eat at Budokan?
Oh my God. Honestly, I'm like trying to block Philadelphia out of my mind.
Are you? Because I'm like, we just went this past summer and I had the best time.
Did you? I feel like going back to it, maybe it would be okay. But like at the time I was like, ooh, it was like before the revamp.
Yeah, and like I feel like where UPenn is not the super fun area. I lived in Old City, and it was just like.
Oh, okay, yeah. Where UPenn is, it's kind of. It's getting better though. It's getting better.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go back and visit because my son is now in 11th grade and he has to apply to school, so we have to start that like whole college thing again.
Yeah. Stay in Old City. I'll send you some info.
Okay, cool.
City, yeah.
So anyway, I thought I was gonna be this like hi-ho like working mom, and you know my husband like grew up knowing my mom.
Hi-ho, like I like that. She's a hi-ho. All right, go on.
And I don't know. I was teaching in the Graduate School of Education at USC. I got married. I was pregnant with my son, and then I had my son, and I was like, I'm not going to work, and everybody was like, what? And I said, I don't know. I just can't leave. I don't even want to think about it. I just know that I have to stay here. And I didn't really have a good reason other than like my female instincts of wanting to stay home. I mean, my parents were slightly judgmental, I'll be honest. They're like,
They haven't done the work. Sorry.
yeah, they're like, wait, you just went like 40 years of school that we just paid for, and like you got all these degrees, and like now what? And so that was a little bit hard because it's very hard to like tune down those outer voices who are like, what are you doing? What's happening? Why are you doing this? But I really just like stuck with my guns, and I was like, you know what? This is what feels good for me right now. And I'll go back to work in 5 years, but then I was 35, and then I was 40. And then I was 45, and I was like, okay, fuck, I have the midlife itchies. I have to get out of here. And my son was 16, my daughter was 14 at the time, and I was like, I have got to do something else outside of my husband, outside of my kids. And I did do other things. I serve on a lot of boards. I hang out with other smart people. You know, I do all the things, but I was really looking to scratch that midlife itch of, I need something that's for me. I don't know what it is, but I need something that's like a new identity. It's something novel, like something just to scratch that itch. And my daughter gave me this birthday present that was all these inscriptions from my friends. And she said, what do you think of my mom? And all these inscriptions came, and it was like, my go-to friend, my pretty nerd friend, my friend who knows everything, my friend is the researcher, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, there's like a theme here. Maybe I should write a book. Everyone always says I should write a book because I'm sort of self-deprecating. And my husband was like, please don't write a fucking book. You're going to be trapped in a room by yourself. That's not what you want to be doing. Like, you want to be out of the house. So I was like, okay, fair point. So I went on a walk with a friend who's like 5 or 6 years ahead of me. She's actually my first podcast guest, Angela Nazarian. And she said, hire a life coach. And I was like, Angela, what's a life coach? Like, what are you even talking about? She's like, it's different from a therapist. They literally just help you dig inside of you and figure out what your next step is. They don't tell you what it is, but they help you along the path. So I went with this life coach who I still talk to on a weekly basis. Her name is Carrie Rose. She's amazing. And we went through this whole journey, and she was like, I said, I think I want to do a podcast. I like to talk. I like to research the fuck out of things. And I want to start a podcast, but I don't know how. So we started on this whole journey, and then COVID hit 2 weeks later. And I was like, okay, wait, what about my podcast? But it was actually a good opportunity because I was trapped at home to research it, figure it out. And I was literally like Googling, how do you make a podcast? Like it was that basic.
Yeah.
Step one.
I remember a post that you did. Then you were like, okay, my guest couldn't come today. I can either bail on myself or I can show up for myself. And you did. Right. You did it.
And that's the thing. It's like in midlife, it's like this choice of like, are you going to show up for yourself? Are you going to cancel on you? Which we all as women typically do. It's like, I have to pick up a kid who could be picked up by another mom, but my daughter really wants me to pick her up. So I'm going to cancel my workout just to please her. Yeah. And it gets to a point where you have to stop canceling on you, or you wake up one day and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what? All this time has gone by and I haven't put myself as a priority. So in this midlife, like you referenced at the beginning, I don't know if it was recorded, that for me, I'm calling this a midlife remix rather than like a midlife crisis. Because for me, midlife crisis is like, okay, all this is happening to me. I'm getting older. My vagina burns when I have sex. You know what I mean? Yeah. My hormones are on fire. I'm sweating down my neck. I'm wearing nipple covers. You saw my Instagram. I'm like blowing a fan up my dress because it's like crotch stew after a blow dry, and I'm sweating under there, you know? Yeah. And so I started calling it the midlife remix because the remix sort of implies agency. Like, I have control over this. I can steer this ship and not have it control me.
Like it's happening for you, not to you.
Yes, exactly. And it's like we do have agency and we can make choices.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you know, crisis is such a negative term too. Like it's a very loaded term of like, oh, well, you're losing your mind. And it's like, remix is such a beautiful like twist to it, because I think you're right. Women in general put down their everything for everyone else. They'll make themselves feel so uncomfortable for the sake of
throwing
everyone.
yourself under a bus.
Yes.
Oh my God, I live under a bus with teenagers. I mean, that's like my position. Like I rarely get out from under the bus.
I see you actually doing what you need to do. So you will go to the gym if you need to go to the gym, right? Like she can ride home with somebody else.
I've gotten much better at it. I used to be a little bit more sort of yielding to all the wants and needs. Yeah. But I'd say in this midlife remix for myself of starting this journey, it was a really interesting dynamic shift in my house because my kids and my husband were so accustomed to having me available at an immediate text. Yes. Or like an immediate phone call. And the dynamic shifted a little bit that even though we were all in the same house during the pandemic, I was like up in my bedroom recording a podcast and unavailable. Yeah. And that was the first time that had happened. And I have to say, like, it wasn't that it was bad. It just took a minute for everyone to get used to it and be like, wait, she actually is busy. Like, she's not pretending to be busy. She actually is busy and she's doing something for her. And they were happy for me, but it definitely took some adjustments for sure. Yeah.
Who's someone who inspires you that's had like a midlife remix? Is there anyone in your life, or it could be celebrity or someone personal that you're like?
I mean, I'd say Angela Nazarian, the woman I mentioned earlier. She's a very close friend of mine. She's a 4-time author, philanthropist, art collector, international speaker. And she, like I said, was like 6 years ahead of me in her midlife journey. And that's why she was my first podcast guest, because the premise of the podcast of the Flexible Neurotic is, even though my kids say that I'm not flexible at all, but that's beside the point. We'll get back to that one. But the neurotic part is that I do have a PhD and that I do have a research brain, and I'm going to research the fuck out of something until I get the answers that I feel like I need to take a deep breath and live more flexibly. And that's where the Flexible Neurotic came from. And I get DMs every day from people who are like, oh my God, I saw your Instagram handle. It's like so funny. It actually made me laugh out loud because it's like such a juxtaposition of words, but that's who I feel like I am. I really am a juxtaposition. Like my kids' friends are like, oh my God, your mom's so cool. And my kids are like, yeah, right. When that door closes, woo.
So you're normal.
Like, yeah.
She's normal.
I appear. But my mom, I appear to be flexible, but on the inside, I'm like a neurotic mess, just like everybody else, trying to figure it all out, you know?
That makes me think, okay, so when you were talking about how you listened to yourself when like you were a young mom, I had like the exact opposite experience. I stopped listening to myself at that time. Did you ever have a time like hearing you say like, I just knew it was right for me to stay home with my kids, and then it was time for you to like get into something for yourself and you started your podcast in between those years? Did you maintain being able to listen to yourself, or did you go through periods of like?
No, I mean, I think, look, I have a pretty sort of, I don't know, strong, big personality. Like I said, I've known my husband since I was 13. Like he knew what he was marrying into. Like he was not marrying Martha Stewart. Like, let's be honest. Like, I wasn't making dinner every night, probably no nights. Like, I have a pretty organized, like, household, but I'm not like a Pinterest mom. And there's nothing wrong with all of that. I'm actually jealous of moms who can like do all the scrapbooks and have everything organized and put together a beautiful like holiday dinner. Like I'm a spaz at that. That's not my skill set. But he knew that, like marrying me. So he's actually really cool about that. He's like, please don't make dinner because then you're like kind of mean and bitchy because you resent the fact that you did that and it doesn't taste good. So it's like an all around like full waste of time.
It tastes good, is that what you said?
Yeah, it sucks.
Taste good, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, don't even waste your time. Like, just do something that you want to be doing rather than trying to cook a meal. Just maybe like make sure there's like some bread in the house so I can make toast. So from that perspective, my husband has been very cool and supportive about whatever I've wanted to do at the time. So it was like he thought I was going to work and then I didn't. And then I, was on all these boards and that took up a lot of time, but my kids were at school and I made it all work. And then, like I said, at 45, a year and a half ago, I was like, I have to get out of this house, like literally and figuratively. And he was like, sure, great. Like, what do you need? How can I help you? And so he literally to this day is still like, my tech assistant. I mean, the poor guy's like a CEO of his own company and like he's like assisting me with like Zoom connections, but he knows how important it is to me. And I've been supporting him and all of his entrepreneurial businesses for the past 27 years that like he sort of is like, okay, it's your turn to like do something for you, just for you.
I love that. So when you first started out, did you have any tools or any like a roadmap going? You said you worked with a life coach. Like, how did you kind of kick everything off and like find your way? I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also the premise of the podcast that I was alluding to before is this was starting this podcast was my midlife remix project. And I didn't know what I was doing. I literally did not know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know how to start a podcast. I had no Instagram. I didn't even have a personal Instagram. So I was like, okay, wait, I have to make a website. I have to start an Instagram. I have to start a podcast. Like, I'm brand new at this. And like being 45 years old and being like a performance-driven person, it's really hard to be like, hi, I'm a beginner. I'm starting at like minimum wage at the bottom and everyone can see me and like this is very public. It's scary.
You came in hot though. I was like, everything matches. Her content is
no, just make it pink and then it works. As long as it's pink, it fits into the grid. Everything was new to me. So I think for me, there wasn't a roadmap, but the premise of the podcast is, hey guys, I don't have a roadmap, neither do you, to midlife. I'm going to interview all these experts around the midlife revamp and reinvention journey. Come along with me and let's find out all this information along the way together. So this whole past year, I've been collecting all these golden nuggets of actionable stuff that we can do in our lives from all these different experts, like how to revamp your vagina. There's like 3 episodes on that, and menopause, like literal things that you can do to revamp your vagina and your sex life. I mean, I got like a bazillion DMs like, wait, you could take a bath in coconut oil and it like lubricates your insides and outsides for better sex. Like my vagina's been burning for 5 years because it's inelastic and dry. And so then I like somehow became like a vagina expert. And I was like, what's happening here? And my husband's like, he listens to my podcast when he walks the dog and he's like, wait, are you like a vagina expert now? What's happening here?
Someone has to be,
I know, but so many women are in the same boat of the midlife remix of like wanting to revamp their personal identities, whatever that is. It doesn't matter if it's like tennis or mahjong, or you want to start a business, or you want to become a hairdresser or a Pinterest expert. It really doesn't matter. It's just scratching your own itch because we're all looking for novelty at a certain point. Yeah. And for some people, like a midlife crisis is buying a sports car, having an affair, sleeping with a tennis teacher. My husband did buy the sports car. I have to be honest. He's a little over it right now. And he started playing the piano 10 years ago.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay.
It's so funny because he's like, he's like, you're not that supportive of my piano playing. I was like, I know, it's kind of loud and it's kind of annoying and repetitive.
Like, my friends are about me making dinner. That's doing the piano.
Like, yes, exactly. So he's like, he goes, it could be a lot worse. Like, there's a lot of guys who are like getting into porn and gambling and all this. And he's like, all I'm doing is like playing the piano and I bought a sports car. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, my version of the midlife crisis is my podcast, where I'm going to talk about all these topics that women are going through and make it more relatable. I mean, so many women message me and they're like, thank you so much for being relatable and vulnerable and talking about these topics that a lot of people don't really want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's why, like, I love like Grace and Frankie for that reason. I mean, granted, they are like much older. They're not. It's not midlife, but I love that like their venture is like going into the sex toy business, because people are like, oh, well, you know, elderly people don't have sex, and it's like, no, we do.
Yeah. I love that. I like that. I feel like a lot of shows now are like not shying away from those topics, because normalizing is, I feel like, better than
It's
shaming.
Yes. And everybody's normal is different. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the beautiful part. And like I was talking about before with like the comparison to middle school, it's like in middle school, we all want to be the same. Like we all want to have the same black Lululemon leggings so that we fit in at the lunch table. But in midlife, I feel like it's this permission, like you've earned the right to be yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So like I'm going to wear leopard leggings even if it horrifies my daughter, because it works for me and that's what I want to be doing and that's what I want to be wearing. But it's like owning your shit and doing you. And I think that's the hardest part. Like one of the hard parts about midlife is tuning out that peanut gallery and your inner mean girl. It's not out just the outside. It's your inner mean girl of like, don't do that. You're going to look stupid. Don't start a podcast. What if only 4 people listen? Don't start an Instagram. You have 0 followers. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. The whole like, what are people going to think about me? You know, I feel like that's so hard to get over. So what would your advice be to someone? Like, what are like some like practical steps that you can take? So say you like want to, I don't know, what's something like maybe you want to like open a store. Wouldn't it be so cute to like curate? Wouldn't it be so cute to like have like a shop in downtown Austin, like curate like lotions and soaps, basically
like a Rose's Apothecary. Yeah, I was like, you're just talking about Rose's Apothecary.
Exactly. What if like somebody wanted to do that, but you're like, oh my God, what would my like husband think? What's my mother-in-law gonna think? What, you know, like what are some practical steps you can take to like be okay?
I think there's a few things, and these are nuggets that I've learned along the way over the past year from all these different guests who have come from different parts of life with different careers. I think that some of the main themes are, some of them sound basic, but if you actually stop and think about it, they're not, because they're hard questions to actually answer if you're being honest with yourself. And like the first one is like, how do I feel? Like, am I enjoying my life? Like, did I wake up today and like, do I like what's happening here? Because chances are it's going to be the same day tomorrow and the same day the next day, you know? And if you're not happy, how do you want to feel? Like, do you want to feel super purposeful and that you're reporting to a job where there's other people that you can see every day? Or are you like more of a creative person where you like being alone and like writing a book or whatever? It's like, how do I feel and how do I want to feel? Like, what are the feelings that I'm looking for? Like for me, I'm a very creative person, but I can't physically make something. I'm not going to be like a painter, but like I like content creation for my Instagram or my podcast. So I'm going to find people who can help me take my ideas from my brain to paper, or my ideas to Instagram, or the graphics or whatever. And so I'd say it's like, how do I feel on a daily basis? How do I want to feel? And what's the next step I can do to get closer to that feeling? And even if it's like a small step, like how many times have you guys like not sent an email and thought about it for weeks or months?
That's so annoying. Yes.
Yeah, where it's like
Should
that
I,
tiny little
shouldn't
thing.
I?
It's like,
Yeah, and I'm here saying, like, based on my like midlife journey starting a year ago, like send that email, because once you send that email, then you give yourself the confidence to do the next thing, to sign up for that cooking class, or to sign up for that website making course, or whatever it is. Because like one of my last guests, it's like talked about, it's like confidence is a muscle. You have to build it. And you can be I'm a very confident person in my life, but there's a difference between confidence and courage.
yeah,
I can be a confident person, but you have to be courageous to, at 45, like put out an Instagram with like 0 followers and be like, hi, I'm here and I'm starting a podcast and I hope you listen. That's like courage. And I think that goes to another one of the steps that I've learned along this process is being scared and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
really hard.
It's hard to do that and like to take the leap, because like I've talked about this with you a little bit too, where even small acts don't feel brave, but they are or can be radically brave. Even like we both do improv. Going to an improv class, it's a brave act because you're meeting new people. You're out of your comfort zone. Doing stand up is like that too. Like there's all these little things that don't seem like a big deal, but you're overcoming a lot of societal things of like letting go.
I think so too. Even just asking for a favor or asking, like I always get nervous asking people even just to like come on our podcast or like, or asking like, hey, like we know, someone who might have an agent in LA for us, but I'm scared to ask. And my husband's always like, men do it all the time. Andy, like all the time. Nobody thinks they can always say no. Like you can ask. And I get so timid about asking.
Yeah, I think women are afraid to hear no.
We all do, or like you think like women or like everybody?
No, I think nobody wants to be rejected.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason why so many of us don't take that step. And so I think the point is like if you take the step and they say no, you just have to take the next step. And at some point there will be a yes, but it might take a while and you have to be okay with that. And I think part of the midlife journey is getting comfortable in the messy. That's one of the hardest parts. It's like, I'm going to go for weeks with like feeling like I'm in this in-between zone in my podcast or like, God, like, should I be taking it in this direction or that direction? Everybody's always like, well, what's your big vision? And I'm like, I don't have a big vision right now. My big vision right now is how can I normalize and inspire self-reinvention in the second half of life for women? I want women to feel inspired and normal that we're all going through this. And if you can just learn one thing from a podcast episode and apply it to your life, then for me, it's all worth it. And I think it goes to figuring out like what your why is. Like my why is wanting to inspire and normalize. So anytime I'm like, I can't fucking do this anymore. This is too hard. I try to remind myself, okay, Sarah, what's your why? Sarah, what's your why? And I come back to it, come back to it, come back to it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful why. And I think like too, you're saying like to know that there are going to be like ebbs and flows in it. You're not always going to be like super stoked. And that's like life. Like, is it still bringing you?
I feel like you can't judge it. Believe me, there are days where I wake up or I'm like, I have to get back into bed. Like I may not be able to fall asleep, but I have to crawl back into bed and like not face the world today. And I think I don't stay there for that long. Like it's not like I'm in bed for days, but like sometimes you just need that 2 hours to stare at the wall and be okay with that. Like I think we're all so trained to be productive all the time, but like sometimes being productive is just not doing anything at all until you're ready to revisit it.
Yeah, like you said, humans have to be productive all the time. You need downtime.
Do you think society in general, as the next generation gets older, do you think they're going to have more like midlife crises? Because I think about like us growing up and it was kind of this like societal thing of head down, continue on, carry on. But for this generation just seems so like, I sound so old. And the next one like coming up just seems so mindful of like, is this making me happy? There's so much self-reflection.
I think that's a really good question. I think that like I even see that with my teenagers, like with my son who's in 11th grade and we're talking about colleges, like he knows that like my husband and I went to an Ivy League school. And we're like, Jake, just because we went doesn't mean you need to. Like, you don't need to prove to us that you can. Like, we know you can. Like, we know you have, like, the grades and the this and the that. But just because you can doesn't mean you do.
Yeah.
And if for you, like with him, like he's a very sort of like creative and entrepreneurial mind, there might be a college that fits his blueprint better than just a sort of straight up Ivy League school. Like maybe there's like a school of innovation and design or blah, blah, blah. And so we're really like trying to say like, hey, you have permission to do it your way, not just the way we're doing it. And that's a hard thing to do as a parent. Like my husband and I went to a specific high school together. That's where we met, like I told you. And my kids went to that school, the same school, until 6th grade. And then at 6th grade, my son's like, okay, I'm done now. I want to go, to this other school. And we were like, wait, really? Like, what? And, my husband and I were alum there. I was on the board of trustees there. And people were like, whoa, you're letting your kids switch out of the school that like you guys are so involved in. And I was like, you guys, I already went to school. Like, this is not about me. This is about him. And if the biggest drama that I have in my life with him is that he wants to go to a school that he thinks better suits him and his vibe, as he calls it, then I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. And the whole point in telling that story is like, I think that the next generation, including my son and my daughter, are questioning things. Like I had a girl working for me when I first started my podcast, helping me with graphics, and she had just graduated from Northwestern and went into the pandemic, and like her whole plan for what she was going to do next got derailed. And she's like, I'm asking myself questions that I didn't even ask before because I was going through these motions of like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I never stopped to answer and ask myself those sort of like existential questions of like, do I really want to be doing this? Or I'm doing this because my parents expect me to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like that paired with like, especially like people like you are normalizing this, like explore things that bring you joy. Are you happy in life? It's almost like, will the midlife remix eventually like mix out in a great way, I mean, I hope people always reinvent themselves, of course, but maybe less of a crisis overview.
Yeah. My neighbor.
Well, I think what's interesting about midlife too is that it's not really an age.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like you turn 40 and like that's your midlife crisis, like in the movies, and you're buying like the red Porsche or whatever. But I think it's more of like a season of life. Like you could be 32, have your first kid and hate your job, and you just want like the next iteration. So to me, it's not necessarily about age, because I'll have people DM me and be like, wait, I really like your content, but I'm not 45. I'm like 34. Like, does it still relate to me? And I'm like, yeah, it relates to you if you have an itchy that you want to scratch, and you may not be 100% at quote midlife, but it doesn't matter. It's just trying to figure out, why are we here? Are we happy with what we're doing? And if we're not, then we have to get off the hamster wheel. And the only way we can do that is by asking those hard questions and just saying, like, it sounds basic, but like, what's the next step? What's the next step? And my husband says that to me all the time, and my life coach. And I'm like, okay, can you guys shut up? Stop asking me. But it's true. It's like, literally, what is your next step? Like, do you want to take that tennis lesson? Like, call the public park or whatever. But a lot of people won't do that, and I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
I feel like giving yourself that, and also like being a parent and knowing like, okay, like your child's life is not your life. This is like you helping them to become themselves, but also giving yourself permission to be fully yourself.
Yeah, I think midlife is the time where I did a post on this a few days ago where it was like, midlife is a time where you can become self-obsessed, and not in a narcissistic, psychotic way, obviously, but in a way of like, yeah, I've put in that time with my kids and my family, and now it's like me time. It's putting myself back at the top of the list. And like one of my podcast guests, Eve Rodsky, talks about this idea of the permission to be unavailable. And it doesn't mean self-care like, oh my God, I'm getting a manicure, you can't talk to me for an hour. But I mean, of course it does mean that to a certain extent, but she's referring to the time to self-reflect and figure out what you want to be doing with your life and your time. And I think so many of us as moms don't give ourselves permission to be unavailable.
Yeah, a healthy no.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we have to go, there's one very important topic that we have not covered. We talked about it before we started recording, but okay. So I am new to nipple covers. You are experienced with nipple covers, and Ashley's never used
a virgin to nipple covers.
I have them on right now because I'm like, they just kind of cover your nipples. I have like just a little bralette on, and you know how the pads and bralettes just go all over the place. Did you see the meme that somebody had going that was like, commit to something, you fools, like sew them in or leave them out. So anyway, I have nipple covers on. They're silicone. You said you've been using them for like 5 years, right?
Yeah, I've been using them for like 5 years. I didn't realize there was like you're supposed to wash them or like rinse them with soap. So I feel like I've had like 5 pairs like in my drawer for 5 years.
That's amazing.
I'm probably like growing fungus or something, but I'm going to address that later when I address my makeup brushes and the blending sponge.
Yeah.
Because that shit hasn't been washed for a long time either.
I thought about that today too. I was looking at my blending sponge. I'm like, what the fuck is growing?
I know. Do you think we should do like a universal cleaning day?
Yes.
Where we all just like dive in and finally do it? Because I feel like we stare at those things.
I think it should be on a Sunday and we should have Lifetime movies in the background.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the only way.
It's the only way.
I feel like I've
It's like some candles and chocolate.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice day. And then the next year we can clean our makeup brushes again.
I know. I'm like, there are those people who like do it like on a weekly or like bi-weekly basis, and I'm like, I can't even like remember what I wore yesterday. Like, there's no way I'm gonna remember to wash all my brushes.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Not happening here either. Except for that time I got pink eye and I had to start over. It's fine.
Oh my god.
It's fine. It was an expensive overhaul. It's fine.
That infuriates me for you because I know you have really good makeup.
But you know what I will tell you guys? I'll let you in on the secret. It'll probably like give you some kind of neuroses. But when I get my hair blown out, I bring my own brushes.
So your daughter had lice one time.
Yes. Okay, so she had lice in like 3rd grade. Ever since that happened, like she went on a camping trip, and I guess like the place like provides the pillows or like something weird, and there was like a lice outbreak. And ever since that happened, I was like traumatized because it takes over your whole house.
It does.
And they're like, wash the pillows and the this and the stuffed animals, and I was like, I'm never going. Yeah, I'm never going through that shit again. So I bring my like detangling brush and my round brush. I have them in a bag, ready to go. They're in my car. So when I get a blow dry, it's like, boom, done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just smart. That's just smart planning.
I agree.
All right. Well, Dr. Sarah, we have to go. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you guys. It was so fun.
Thank you. Sorry. Where can we follow along?
Oh my gosh. Sarah Milken, but my Instagram is at the Flexible Neurotic. Neurotic is hard to spell. I've realized some people like screw up the E and the U. So work on that before you type it in, or just try to type in it a few times. I have a website, theflexibleneurotic.com. I have some podcast clips on YouTube, and that's me.
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
Give her a
So if you guys want some like midlife revamping, always call me.
Excellent. We'll put you on speed dial.
Thank you.
Here we are having our post-interview virtual cigarette.
I have a confession.
Go on.
Okay, so my Foxtrot is the new code name for my friend whose birthday it was. She was like, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but will you pick me up a vape on your way over to the house? And so I do, but I picked it out because it had a really pretty color. You know how I'm really into like emerald green. Oh. I picked it by the color. Well, I accidentally, and it was watermelon, and I accidentally picked one that was so strong, like it enhances your wine buzz. Did you? I did. Oh my God. I don't know. That's my confession. I smoked a little of her vape, and I was like, never again.
Never again.
But how do they make it so that it tastes like watermelon and it's actually nicotine?
I don't know actually how they do that. I don't know.
It was fun, and I'm not doing it again.
And our moment in the sun has come and gone.
I'm putting
we're putting out the virtual cigarette. We're done with this.
I don't want to be like, oh my God, that was a good interview, but like, oh my God, that was a good interview.
It was a really good interview. Yeah, she was so fun. That's why like I love like a good balance of like fun and entertaining, and Dr. Sarah brought it all.
Yeah. Give her a listen on Apple Podcasts and on go on her Instagram.
All the things. And I'm going to do a coconut oil bath as soon as I can. I'm going to lubricate, the whole thing.
I'm excited for that for you.
Thank you.
I feel like it's going to be hydrating for our feet too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody wants a crunchy heel.
No one wants a crunchy heel. No. And I mean, just prep that slip and slide and let's go.
On that note, please give us a share. If you enjoyed this episode, send it to your friends, send it to your mom, send it to your husband. I feel like we have so many of our guy friends listening. You guys, thank you.
I know. So many of our guy friends listen. I love y'all. That's so nice.
Isn't that so sweet?
It is so sweet.
So sweet. We love you.
Boop.
Can you give us 5 stars too? That'd be so cute.
If you're,
That'd be so cute if you give us 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars for season 2.
Season 2. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for everything. Thanks for following along. We love you.
Bye, Mashers.
Bye. Mwah.